In this hands-on lab nugget, you and I are going to take a look at service principal names, or SPNs, inside of Windows Server 2016. You can kind of think of these as like CNAME or alias records inside of DNS. It's going to be pointer information so that when a client or another machine needs to access a service, there can be a nice association between that service and other services that might be on the system and the service account that is configured to run that service. Let's take a look inside our hands-on lab. So let's begin by getting logged in to our DCNUG1 machine, and let's head over to the Active Directory Users and Computers area, and let's see the format. And let's see the service principal names that would be automatically set up for us on this DCNUG1 machine. So we'll launch Server Manager, and then inside of Server Manager, we'll use the Tools menu to go to Active Directory Users and Computers. Now, what's interesting is we can't see the SPNs inside the GUI without taking a look at the advanced features. So we need to remember to do that. So one of the first things I'm going to do is right-click in here, go to View, and I'm going to choose Advanced Features. Now, if we go into like our domain controllers and we double-click DCNUG1, we'll have this Attribute Editor tab, among other tabs that have been added thanks to the advanced features. And if you scroll down here in your attributes and you go down to Service, we'll see right here the service principal name. If we double click this, we can see all of these many SPNs that have been set up. The format for your SPN is first a service class, followed by a /, then the host, and you could use a colon and a custom port assignment, then a /, and the name of the service. So we look here and we say, well, wait a minute, this just has two components, each of these entries. And for that matter, why are there two entries? Well, what's going on here is this SPN stands for the NetBIOS reference, and this SPN stands for the fully qualified domain name. So we duplicate these things for NetBIOS and non-NetBIOS environments. Something else that's interesting is notice this service class is named host, and then we actually have the host that is participating in that service class. This host entry is for all of the built-in services that might be functioning on this account. And all of these entries, by the way, are for those that are using those built-in identities of our local system, our local service, our network service, etc. Now, it is so rare that you would ever have to manipulate these SPNs, but if you do have to do that, how would we do it? Well, there's a tried and true classic utility for this. So if we go down and we launch the command prompt, we're going to see the utility is called set SPN. So what we'll do first is we'll run set SPN and we'll do -L to list all of those on DCNUG1. And what we're going to see at the command prompt here is what we just saw in the graphical user interface. Notice in addition to the host entry, there's an LDAP class of entry, and that's because this is an Active Directory domain controller. Now, let's have some fun with this. Let's add a custom entry for a custom service and a custom managed service account that we can create. We have a script on this to do all of that. So let's launch the integrated scripting environment, and we'll fire open a script that we've worked with here in other nuggets on service authentication, and that is in your documents folder. And there it is, that group managed service account. So let's open this up and let's just review here a little bit. Let's create a new AD service account. So we'll run that line. We'll then add the AD computer service account. We'll then scroll down and we'll install that AD service account. And then finally, we'll create our dummy service named NUG SRV. Once we've got all that stuff created, let's go back over to our set SPN utility. We'll do set SPN, and then we'll do a -S. This is going to not only create this custom SPN for us, if you will, but it's also going to make sure that no duplicate exists. So our service is NUG SRV / our host is dcnug1.nuggetlab.com. And then our account that we're going to be using is Nugget Lab / MSA and then NUGSRV. So we just added this service principal name. By the way, another step that we would obviously need to do here, let's review that, is inside of our services app, we need to associate that service to run as that user account. You remember how easy that is to do. So we'd come down to NugServe, we'd go to the logon, we'd go to, we're using a special account, that is the MSA, we'll do a check names, there it is. And we'll, of course, wipe out the password because Microsoft is going to handle that for us. Say OK, and we just did it. Now, if we go into that user account, let's go into that user account in Active Directory, we'll see the SPN that got created there. So we'll go to Managed Service Accounts. Let's right-click this account and go to Properties. Notice we're still in the Advanced Features view, so we're going to have that Attribute Editor. And if we scroll down under the Service Principal Name, where is it? There it is. We can see that entry that we created using the set SPN utility. Now, the set SPN utility really gets a bad rap because the syntax in there can be so complicated. If you do a Google search on SPN commandlet, you'll see that several developers have written custom commandlets for PowerShell that you can download so you can do all of this management of SPNs thanks to PowerShell with those users' custom scripts. Use at your own risk, of course, because this is not something that Microsoft officially provided, but there are PowerShell commandlets that have been written to ease this burden. So this nugget really does put the finishing touches on our discussion of service accounts and the context in which services run, and we wrapped up with a key piece of the puzzle, these service principal names that are going to act as kind of like glue when users are banging against services, or even one computer is banging against the service of another computer. We have to make sure there's an easy identification system for the service and the user account in which the service runs. By the way, one more point. Those group managed service accounts that we took a look at, those are so great, and they make it so we almost never have to manipulate SPNs when we're setting up custom services running against custom user accounts. I hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.